2,626,418. That is the average number of deaths per year in the United States, according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Death is something that we all will have to experience either sooner or later in our lives. I also found the Center for Disease Control and Prevention studies that over 70% of deaths in the United States are caused by either illness or disease. When Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence in 1776, he declared that we have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But there is one issue that I have found has been trampled on for many who may be terminally ill. Google defines liberty as the state of being free within society from oppressive restrictions imposed by authorities on one's way of life, behavior, or political views. But it has come to my knowledge that only in 6 states can a patient with a terminal illness or disease choose to end their suffering through euthanasia. I believe it is our duty to fight for euthanasia to be legalized for everybody who may be suffering through a disease that does not have this option if they believe it is the course they want to take. A few things I really want to key on, hope makes you really think about this topic, is rights we do have that can be viewed as questionable, just like this topic. Human rights I believe every human being should have. And do we already have a right that could be protected by our Constitution to die? I don't know if you all know this, but in America right now, it is completely legal for someone to refuse life-saving treatment, but in most states it is illegal for a terminally ill patient to receive euthanasia and end their life. Let me repeat that. Somebody can refuse a treatment to save their life, but when somebody knows death is inevitable, they have to suffer through their illness all the way to the end. When our animals are suffering and we know they won't make it, we give them euthanasia. But if a human being is suffering, they cannot legally receive the euthanasia that would end their suffering? According to studies found in the 1996 article, Euthanasia and Physician-Assisted Suicide, Attitudes and Experiences of Oncology Patients, Oncologists, and the Public, published in The Lancet by Dr. Ezekiel Emanuel, Dr. D.L. Fairclough, Dr. B.R. Claridge, and Mr. Daniels, 2 out of 3 oncology patients found euthanasia and physician-assisted suicide acceptable, and a majority of the public also found it acceptable. So the question is, if the majority of the public finds it acceptable, and people that might actually have to make the decision find it acceptable, why won't our government legalize it nationwide? As Americans, we all do take for granted all the rights we do have, but I am still quite shocked that in most states a terminally ill patient is forced to suffer all the way until death. Did you know that in the European Declaration of Human Rights there is a right not to be forced to suffer? Other industrial countries give their citizens the right to die, but America doesn't. In fact, according to the European Declaration of Human Rights, we are taking away people's rights. Faye Gersh quoted in the 2001 article titled "How Shall We Die" in the Free Inquiry that it should be considered as much of a crime to make someone live who with justification does not wish to continue as it is to take life without consent. Isn't he right by this quote though? Doesn't someone who is suffering and openly want to die but is getting their rights taken away just the same as a murder victim who did not wish to die but was killed? If someone was to kill one of these people that were suffering and begging to die in South Dakota, they would be accused of the same crime as somebody who just shot somebody else, ending their life. That may have had many years after that incident. They both would be charged with murder. Just think about that for a second. Now that you have heard a right that Europeans have, I want to talk about a right that I think we actually have that protects euthanasia. The 8th Amendment, passed in 1791, prohibits the government imposing cruel or unusual punishment. I don't know about you guys, but I think forcing someone suffering wanting to die to live until their natural passing, which could be tremendously delayed, is pretty cruel to me. Euthanasia right now is an issue that is left to the state to decide, But what's strange is, I think citizens already have a right to euthanasia because of the eighth. I actually believe this is something that is never brought up in the debate about euthanasia that really should be more. Illness and disease is a terrible thing, and unfortunately, in some cases, they can be incurable. I believe it is our duty to fight for these patients to have a right in choosing if they want to end their suffering. The majority of Americans believe those suffering should have the right, and together as a nation, we can fight for a human right that I believe is well deserved. Thank you.